What are you willing to exchange in return for your compensation? It's probably not something you've really taken a lot of time to think about, and it's pretty obvious that our employers compensate us for our time. But our employers determine what our time is worth and what is considered fair, and it's not the same for everyone across the board. So it stands to reason that we must be compensated for something other than just our time. And by the end of this video, I'm going to present 3 different things that you may be compensated for in the name of company loyalty other than just your time. The first one that we're going to talk about is autonomy. And I'm going to read this definition here because I want to get it right. So this is a definition of autonomy from Christian Nielsen, and he's a productivity consultant. He says, autonomy is the power to shape your work and environment in ways that allow you to perform at your best. Autonomy doesn't mean no rules and free reign. You have to understand the parameters and guidelines that you have to work within, but have freedom to meet them as you see fit. So this whole thought of autonomy, of giving up your autonomy, was actually spawned by a speech that I saw Noam Chomsky give. And what he was talking about is that there was a time when autonomy was the norm, when people chose a craft or vocation and they could exercise their talents as they saw fit. And what actually happened back then was that everybody got exceptional products and services because people were performing their work in the best way that they knew how. So autonomy began to disappear with the introduction of the assembly lines, and then came the cubicle farms, and then all of a sudden society started seeing people as a means of production, a tool of production, rather than a being with skills and talents to bring to the table. So everybody was starting to be forced to fit into neat little boxes and to do what they were told. And this is starting to change today in our society a bit, but it's still pretty pervasive, I would say. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, are we selling our autonomy, and is that something that we're willing to sell in exchange for our compensation? The next thing we have to consider is our personal values. And I'm going to read this, I want to make sure it's right. This is according to Penny Laredo, and she is an associate director in the Career Development Center at Skidmore College. And according to her statistics, employers say that of the top 10 values they want to see in an employee, one of those values is loyalty. So it raises a question to me, does this mean that I'm going to be asked to exchange my values in exchange, or no, am I going to be asked to exchange my values for those of my boss or those of the company as in return for my compensation? And I say you can never give up your core values. You are going to live a miserable life if you do. Now, you only have 1 or 2 core values. You need to get that whittled down first. And then you have a bunch of what I would call second string values. And you're going to have to compromise those from time to time because obviously we're going to work with people who don't have the same values as us. That's just inevitable. But you need to deliberately think about whether you are willing to give up those second string values or not. So let's walk through an example of what I'm talking about here. 2 of my second string values are family and friendship, and compassion. So let's pretend that I'm on call 24/7. Now, I'm not literally on call 24/7, but I've kind of been given that message because I've been given a company cell phone. I've also been reprimanded when I did not respond to emails that I received at 8 o'clock at night in a timely manner. So I'm kind of being told that I'm on call 24/7. But the thing is, family is one of my core values. Or not core, I'm sorry. Family is one of my second string values. And 8 o'clock at night is about the time that my family is starting to settle down from the day and we actually have time to spend some quality time with each other. So, am I willing to give up this value, this time with my family, in exchange for my compensation? That's the question I would have to ask myself in that situation. And let's remember that compensation doesn't just mean money. You can also be compensated with opportunities for advancement. Because maybe if I'm not willing to take those phone calls at 8 or emails at 8 o'clock at night, I'm going to be passed up for promotions and things like that. Okay, second example. So the other one is my other second string value is compassion. So let's say I have a coworker whose husband has cancer. So she's got a lot going on. She's having a hard time staying on top of her work. I'm on top of my work. I have work to do, but none of it's pressing. It can all wait. So I take some of her work on and take some of that load off of her. My boss finds out about it. He's not happy about it because according to him, or her I should say, I shouldn't just say him, I just happen to have male bosses most of my life. But according to him, I should be focusing on my own work and not all my work is done. So if I concede to him, am I not surrendering one of my values in exchange for my compensation? So far we've got autonomy and values. The third thing you may be giving up is your dreams. Now maybe your work and your dreams are in alignment and that is awesome. But I gotta say, I really don't feel, based on what I observe every day, I really don't feel like that's true for most people. Most people, though, think they are, or say they are satisfied with their work. And this is based on a poll that was taken in April of 2019, so it was very recent. It was taken by two groups in conjunction with each other, I guess is the right way to say it, CNBC and SurveyMonkey. And they found that 85% of people are somewhat or very satisfied with their jobs. Okay, that sounds awesome, doesn't it? Like, all right, we've gotten there, people. Well, no, because they are saying they're satisfied. That does not mean that they are fulfilled. Being satisfied could just mean that you're willing to settle, that you're willing to do what's expected of you, or that you just can't leave this current job or career because it pays too well. And you know you're not going to find something else that pays the same. You might be satisfied simply because you don't hate the job. And you might mistake this level of satisfaction with being fulfilled, but they are not the same thing. So I'm a great example of this. And I would say I was satisfied with being an accountant. And I was an accountant, CPA, auditor for 26 years of my life. I was satisfied. I rarely experienced the Sunday scaries, and if you're not sure what the Sunday scaries are, I have a separate post on that. I was well paid, in my opinion. I was always happy with my compensation, and if I wasn't happy with it, I was fortunate enough that I was able to negotiate what I was happy with. I was very good at what I did, and I had a great client base. So I was very satisfied, but yet I still yearned for more. Because I wasn't working toward my potential. My potential is my dream of building this community of deliberate thinkers. So one day I decided that just was not something that I could live with anymore. I would not be able to live with myself if I did not start pursuing my dream, if I kept denying it. And I just decided I was no longer willing to exchange my dream for the compensation I was receiving. So that's a question you're going to have to ask yourself, too, is are you willing to give up your dreams in exchange for satisfying but not fulfilling work that probably maybe compensates you well? Is that something that you're willing to give up your dreams for? Because remember, we only have one life. This is it. So really, give it some thought. And to help you with that thought process, of course, we have a handy-dandy worksheet that will help you lead you through. It will help you evaluate what you are really giving up in exchange for your compensation, and will help you answer the question, am I being compensated fairly? So check that out, and until next time, stay curious.